Hey everybody, welcome to episode 57. In this episode I want to talk about um, one of my favorite board games of all time, Dark Tower. This is actually Return of the Dark Tower, which is the newer game. I'll get to that eventually, but 19... for me it was 1982, Christmas of 1982. Again, the same Christmas where I got Castle Grayskull. Um, it was a very Dark Tower, Castle Grayskull kind of Christmas that year. My dad ended up getting it for me. I know my sister had some part in it because I think she wanted to play it as well. So it was kind of like a family gift more so than just specifically me. I know it was bought at KB Toy Store in Meadowbrook Mall because I think I was there when they bought it. I think I was looking at it. I think my sister was looking at it. I remember just going in. They had the box set up, and I think my sister took me down to the arcade or Aladdin's Castle or something like that, and then my dad ended up buying it and taking it out to the trunk of the AMC Eagle there before I could see what they had, because I remember it was a surprise when I got it. I was like, Dark Tower. I'm going to just tell you, basically just hit the key points of the original game, and then, and basically tell you what it's kind of about, and then I'll explain Dark Tower, Return of the Dark Tower. Here's the box for it. It's a pretty good game. This was gifted to me by somebody for my birthday. It was an unexpected gift. I wasn't expecting to get it. Obviously, this person knew how much I liked the original game. And the problem with the original game is I'll show you I'll hit the Wikipedia page first. It's extremely rare, the original, and it's extremely hard to get a functioning one that's intact. And there's a reason by that, and we'll get to that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to play you the commercial that was on. This was from 1982, so obviously this is where I probably originally saw Dark Tower, the commercial, probably during Saturday morning cartoons, and it's funny, it's got Orson Welles does the commercial, and it's funny because he did I think he did the Time Life books, the Enchanted Stories, I think, which is a book series I'll probably do a video on that later. I want to still see if I can get a couple of those books on thrift books or whatever. I know they're not super hard to find, but anyways, that's a whole other issue. So let's go ahead and play the Orson Welles commercial that aired. Got it here.
Last night I journeyed backwards in time to the medieval world of Dark Tower. In this amazing game, I had to find 3 keys, lay siege to the tower, and defeat the enemy within. Each move was a challenge. The computer kept track, giving me secret information, pictures, sounds, surprises. Then, ahead of my opponent, I made my move. The battle was joined, and I was victorious. Dark Tower.
The thing is, they cut that commercial out there at the end. They show the victory screen of the which has little sounds that would come out of the tower. So what the game was, we'll go back to this folder. So here was the box. See if I can. This is a better picture of the box. This was the box for it. It was a big box, and it was like that big, and pretty deep, and bigger than the Return of the Dark Tower, by about the same depth, just bigger. Like I said, and the thing was, I loved the artwork on the original. There's a guy named Bob Peppers did the artwork for it, and I'll show you something with him real quick. We'll just go over and pull up this here. So this is Bob Peppers. He did a lot of like Philip K. Dick. He did a lot of science fiction book covers, especially the Daw books back in the 70s. And he kind of had a trippy kind of, everything in the 70s was kind of like this. It was very LSD induced, trippy kind of art. But he also did this game Dragon Master, which I'll just touch base on a little bit later. But he did, obviously, he did Dark Tower. I think it shows more of his Dark Tower art here. So let's go back. I just pulled out a few key images. Here is the game board setup. This is the original Dark Tower. As you can tell, this thing's pretty crazy in comparison to that. That thing was pretty streamlined back then, but it was an electronic. It was made by Milton Bradley Electronics, and like they did Scotland Yard. They always did like their electronic versions. I think Simon was Milton Bradley Electronics. The Wizard. I don't know if you remember the Wizard. And then it took two big D batteries that would go on the bottom of it, and it had this plate that sat on because it would move. Well, you would move it. It wouldn't move by itself, but you'd move it because it was for 4 players, and every player you could move the tower to you, so it was your turn. So, and the computer and the little computer in the tower would keep track of whose turn it is. You tell how many players it is, that type of thing. And then you had some, components there, some physical components to keep track of things. I think with those little cards there, kept track of your health, like how many warriors you had, or how many food, or whether or not you had a healer. So you could always kind of look down at your little card, and you always kind of, okay, I know I got a healer, I know I got a scout, I know I've got the sword, and I got this many warriors. So, and you try to you could hit inventory when it's your turn on the tower, and it would let you make sure that it'll give you a rundown of what you have, just to make sure your card's right. I remember kind of using the card. I remember just basically just paying attention to what's in the thing. Obviously the smarter way to play it was to keep track of what you have, so dictate what you do on your turn. And then you had your little miniature you'd use, and they were pretty cool little plastic miniatures that came with the game. I remember I used to almost treat them like Dungeons and Dragons miniatures too. I had this weird instance where I don't know why, but we had a big milk jug filled with bird seed, and I don't know, for some reason I thought it was really cool to drop them in the big jug of milk seed or bird seed and shake it up, and then I gotta find them. Oh my god! I just had like this little adventure with these little miniatures inside this milk jug of bird seed. I was a weird kid. I did really weird things. That was one of them. Yeah, so we played this game quite a bit. My sister read the rules. She's the smart one, so she'd figure it all out. And my dad, even though he was kind of like, he just liked to play games and he liked to be with his kids, so he would play anyways. And he'd always be there to keep me and my sister from fighting, and arguing about the rules and stuff like that. Even though I didn't really know the rules, she did, but I would do things, and she'd say, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? You can't do that. It's not in the rules. Then my dad would obviously be there to keep us in line there. Yeah, we used to play this a lot. I remember sitting on the living room floor a lot playing this, like after dinner. And then, yeah, so we had it for a while. I remember I eventually ended up, taking it. And I remember I wouldn't want to play the game per se. Like, I wouldn't want to set it all up and do all that stuff. I just played by myself. So I put in one player, which you could do, and I just sit on the couch with it in my hands because you didn't have to move it anymore. It's all right there, because you're the only player. And I would just go through the thing, and it would kind of let you, like, if you tried to do too many things in one turn, it would stop you, and it would tell you you can't wait for your turn. Of course, you were the only player, so when you hit end turn, it would just go right back to you anyways. But it was pretty cool, and I would just play the game inside the just the tower, and that was like my favorite way to play the game because I could play by myself. Nobody bothered me. I could sit on the couch and play this. And away I'd go. I remember taking it over to my mom's at the time, and then I played it over there, and eventually got broke. The pieces were all lost. The box was thrown away. Yada yada yada. Hence why it's so valuable today. So many people didn't keep theirs or broke it or whatever. But they had here's the back of the box just to show you kind of how it looked. It's funny because here's an ad from Toys R Us. Now we got it from KB Toy Store, and I know KB was a little more expensive than Toys R Us at the time, but it's like $39.99 for that game. That's expensive. Remember, Castle Grayskull was $20, or I think it was $25, but I remember the price tag on mine was also from KB Toy Store. Said $18.97. So my dad probably got it a little cheaper. I don't know if it was a clearance, or they just had it on sale. But it was about $20 for Castle Grayskull. The Millennium Falcon, the Kenner Millennium Falcon, that was like $45. That was an expensive toy. So this was, on par with like the Millennium Falcon, which I think Millennium Falcon, until like the Imperial Shuttle and all the other bigger toys came out in Jedi, I think for the Falcon was pretty much the most expensive Star Wars toy. G.I. Joe is kind of getting its start here, but I think even the Mobat tank was only $20. That was battery powered. So getting anything battery powered obviously was a little more expensive. I just think it's kind of interesting. Look how expensive the Atari and the Intellivision were then. That's crazy. Not that many people had those because of this reason. Parents weren't. I mean, that's like spending. Well, that's what they cost today, about $500 for a PlayStation 5. So a lot of kids have them, but parents are kind of it's a lot of money to shell out today. So that was a lot of money to shell out for that stuff back then. And this was cool because this was it was neat. This is, of course, was during the Dungeons and Dragons craze, which and He-Man craze. I mean, all this stuff kind of hit at the same time. All 82. Conan the Barbarian came out. Sword and the Sorcerer came out. It was a very sword and sorcery kind of era in the early 80s. Especially for me. I mean, I was all about that stuff. And this was cool because it's like you could play Dungeons and Dragons without actually playing Dungeons and Dragons. And, my sister and my dad were interested in playing it. So, it made me I was able to play it more. I would say I probably played Dark Tower more than I played Dungeons and Dragons at that specific time period. Here's a close-up of the tower itself. So I had a little digital readout here. It wouldn't flash. Now, you had the keypad here, and you could tell it what you wanted to do. So if you wanted to go to, say, the Bazaar or the Sanctuary, you had to be on that spot. So if you had to take you had so many movement turns. And once you got your guy on that spot, like that's a keep, you would then you would hit the button. Like I'm on the Sanctuary, so on my turn I would just hit Sanctuary, and go, and you could buy things from the Sanctuary or the Bazaar or whatever. Not Sanctuary, Bazaar is where you'd buy things. The Sanctuary is where you take Sanctuary. So and they would give you like you could get warriors. They'd give you food, because you're taking Sanctuary there. The ruins, or actually it was called a keep. There's a keep and ruins. I can't remember which one was which, but that would, like, every time you go into the keep, it would make the, and then of course, and then these would pop up. So let me show these real quick and blow this up, so you can see most of them. So the whole object in the game, obviously, right here is to get victory. And that would happen if whoever won the game would get victory. And, everybody was against you. Everybody's trying to get victory first, but you weren't necessarily specifically playing against your opponent. Like, all 4 players or 2 players, however you want to do it. You weren't like, nothing you did really affected their game. It was like 4 separate journeys just to kind of see who could get to Dark Tower first and who could get victory. And then so the different like things you had to do to get to that point was you had to find these keys. So every time you went to the tower and you tried to open up a level, it would say key missing. This one here would show up if you didn't. Like a light bulb. It was like a little thing that would spin and had all those little images, printed on like this transparent cylinder, and then a light bulb was behind it, and there was light bulbs for different ones, and they were stacked up, and whenever they would flash that icon, it would just light the light bulb up, and you'll see the little thing appear. It's pretty cool, for that technology back then. It's 40 years old. But yeah, so you'd have to find the keys, and of course the first key you'd have to find would be the brass key, and you find that by going to keeps and ruins and looking for it. It's just like Dungeons and Dragons. You'd find the silver key would be next, and then you'd get the gold key. And once you get all 3 keys, you had to put them in, and you had to figure out the sequence to put them in, and then once you put them in, you could open up the tower. Once you get in the tower, then it's not over yet. You still have to battle brigands. And also when you're in the ruins and everything, you had to fight brigands. I never knew what brigands meant back then. I was just called them brigands. Brigands! And I didn't know what they were. Were they orcs? Were they like lizard men? Or they just had these weird like smoky. I didn't know what this was. It was like horns. If it was like smoke coming out of these like pipes sticking out on the side of their like Quaker hat. It was just a very weird looking image. And then here's again. Now remember I was talking about that weird feeling I would get with like the wise men and that whole biblical like kind of like weird dreams that I would have like being in the desert and stuff. This game probably was part of that. Just these like images and stuff of these like almost like nomadic looking like just with the scout. He's pretty much got sun protection on. You could definitely tell he's in some kind of desert behind it. You got the bazaar, which also seemed very Arabian. Like I said, when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, I've said this before in the other video, I don't really think so much of like knights and like King Arthur and like medieval Europe. I think of more like being out in like the desert, like the Sahara Desert, and and traveling across like sand, like dunes and stuff, and finding like finding like lost cities and stuff, and everybody had like these weird, you go to the bazaars and stuff, and you got like these like guys with the turbans, the big black beards, and all that stuff. That's what I think of it. I think a lot of it has to do with the imagery that the original Dungeons and Dragons before the stuff in '83. This game, a lot of the imagery I think kind of lent to that. So, and then you obviously you'd find gold, and you'd use the gold to buy things. You could buy more warriors because your warriors would get slaughtered by brigands. And it was just kind of like a back and forth thing. It was done randomly, I think, within the computer. There's no real way you could affect the outcome, except for I know if I took my fist and I banged on the side of it really mad and got really angry at it and started yelling at the thing when I was playing by myself, for some reason I started winning. And I thought like that literally did something. That's probably why it broke, because I beat the shit out of it. I was just punching the side of it. Come on! No! And it would just like, I would win. And it was weird. Obviously, it's just arbitrary and completely random, but I don't think beating the side of the thing did anything, but in my mind it did. At least I got my frustrations. Like I said, I was a weird kid, an angry kid, all of that. So, anyways, so yeah, you'd get gold, and you could buy gold for food. If you didn't have enough food, you would die. You would start losing warriors. They'd start dying. You could buy other things, like you could buy a beast of burden, which I always thought this thing was so crazy looking. But you buy this beast of burden, and let me just blow this up a little better. And what it would do is you could move faster. And then, of course, if you found a Pegasus, like I said, Clash of the Titans just came out in '81, so there was Clash of the Titans involved there too. You could get a Pegasus, and you could move like a lot. I think you could. Oh, you could also move across. So you kind of had this quadrant, and if you stayed in your quadrant to get to the next like plateau or whatever where your opponents were, you could go into their areas. Like again, I don't think it affected their gameplay, but you could go over there. But you needed a Pegasus to cross like the void. It's almost like you're like teleporting into a different realm, and then you had. Other things would happen too. So like, if the dragon attacked, you're kind of screwed, because the dragon would pretty much just slaughter all of your warriors and leave you kind of at, back down to nothing, and you had to work your way back up. And of course, it would set you back when your opponents, are farther to their goal. The only way to defeat the dragon was to have the sword. The only way to have the sword was to find it in one of those keeps, or I think Sanctuary would give you a sword once in a while. I think you could buy. You couldn't buy it in the bazaar. I think that was one. This one you couldn't buy. Pegasus you couldn't buy. These two had to be found or given to you. And if you have the sword, the dragon go. He like when he show up, it go. And then you lose guys, and it would show you that you lost all your guys. But then if you had the sword, it go. And then you go, and it would make another like victory noise. Not this victory noise, but another noise that the sword killed the dragon. But the dragon could come back. and the dragon could attack any of the players. So, and there was more than one sword, obviously. I don't think if one person had the sword, the other players couldn't get the sword. Maybe that was the case. I can't remember that far back. But other things would happen to you too. So as you're traveling, you could get lost. And if you were lost, you pretty much lost a turn. But you wouldn't lose the turn if you had a scout. So you could buy a scout at the bazaar. If you got plagued, if you had a healer, you wouldn't. So if you got plagued, you basically lost a bunch of your dudes, right? But you could combat that if you bought a healer at the bazaar, and the healer would, cure the plague. Now, cursed, I think you were cursed. I don't think you could do anything. Once you were cursed, you were cursed. I don't think there was any way out of that. And I can't remember the repercussions of being cursed either. But I love the bazaar clothes, guys. It's so funny because, so if you could haggle, there's a haggle button, and if you go to the bazaar and he wanted 5 gold for a warrior, and you're like, I only want to pay 4 gold, you could haggle and say haggle 4, and he would either accept it, or if he didn't accept it, he'd go and it would show you this bazaar closed. He would close the bazaar and you say, nope, he's not selling you anymore, and you had to basically wait until your next turn to try to reopen the bazaar. And it was just a cool thing. I used that as a little joke in a comic book once. I think a couple of people got it. But and then, I think the wizard was evil. I can't remember. It's one of the most iconic ones of all of these, next like the brigands. But the wizard, I think you could hire the wizard, or the wizard was out to get you. I think the wizard was the main bad guy. No, that's what it was. Like I said, this stuff's coming back to me. Now, we could check the other sites I'll show you that kind of go more to explain it. Now, this is the old, like I said, this is the old one. I mean, last time we played the Return, which is a completely different, and I'll get to that. It's completely different from this. It's similar in it pays homage and it's based on this, because obviously it's Return to Dark Tower, but the way it's played and everything is a lot different than the way this was played. Again, you want to get victory. So that kind of explained the whole shebang as far as how that's played. So let's go to the websites real quick here. I go over to, we'll read the Wikipedia thing real quick here. So we've got, let's see, yeah, so it was made in 1981. We got it in 1982. I don't think they started really marketing it until 82. So it was an electronic board game from Milton Bradley Company. There's that little Milton Bradley symbol. The objective of the game was to amass an army, collect the 3 keys to the tower, and defeat the evil within. I think that's the wizard. The game came out during the height of the role-playing game craze. Yeah, so they're gonna, of course, in the early 80s. Advertising for the game included a television commercial featuring Orson Welles. We just watched that, so there you go. And a sequel to the game, Return to the Dark Tower, was developed by Restoration Games and released in 2022, which is when I got it. And I think it was a Kickstarter, or as a crowd. I think you can still get it now, but it's more money than it was if you crowdfunded it. I believe my friend who got it for me, I think that's how he got it. I think he crowdfunded. I'm not 100%. He might have bought it. If you bought it at the crazy price, that's a heck of a gift. So, that now still goes for almost what you could buy a vintage, full, complete Dark Tower for, almost. So yeah, it talks about the components here. It's battery powered, central tower, circular cardboard. We saw that in the picture, circular cardboard board. You had the battleship type pegs, which you'd keep track of things. So keep track of players, numbers of troops, gold, and food. Let's see, gameplay. I've kind of explained the gameplay. Rarity. Here we go. Working copies of Dark Tower are increasingly difficult to find, thus highly sought by collectors. This is a primary due to 2 things: wear and tear on the unit, which tended to experience technical faults with light bulbs, especially when you got, 9-year-old kids punching the side of it because they're losing. The light bulbs, the carousel, prolonged use, blah, blah, blah. The fact that the game went out of print shortly after release due to a lawsuit brought by Milton Bradley from intellectual property theft. Okay, so here's talk about litigation. So they got sued. Apparently, these other guys had submitted the idea to Milton Bradley called Triumph, which is essentially an electronic tower as a centerpiece, and they didn't use the idea, but they ended up coming out with it. So I guess the inventors, I guess they got $700,000, and I think it caused them, I think they plagiarized the planet's idea. So looks like here that they actually won their court case, and then that was what, 1985. So the game had only really been around for about 3 years, and then it's gone. That's the other reason why it's so rare, is they produced it for such a short period of time and they couldn't reprint it. Now I think this one, because they changed it, this is probably how they got around it. Either that, or I don't know, maybe they bought the rights from this guy. I don't know a lot about this one specifically as far as how it came to be. I guess I could research that, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, here's the sequel. Okay, Return of the Dark Card was launched on Kickstarter on January 14th, 2020 by Restoration Games as a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. So yeah, this one's cooperative, so you work with your other players. Designed by Isaac Childress. I'm terrible at names, and I'm gonna skip that. The creators of Gloomhaven and Pandemic Legacy, respectively. The game features a motorized rotating tower guided by an app. So here's the thing. This one, it's app driven. You've got to download the app for this one, put it on a tablet or your phone or whatever. I don't like that. And the reason why is because I know everything's like that nowadays, but the problem is I like having the game, meaning I like having everything in a box. That's the whole reason I like having the physical stuff. I don't want to be reliant on, an app that may or may not even still be in existence. If they ever discontinue the app, or the app becomes unusable or unattainable, I've got it downloaded. It's on my tablet, but if I ever got rid of it and then you couldn't get it, you could never play the game. So I don't like that. I don't like using the app. I mean, it is cool. The app, it's Bluetooth. This is Bluetooth. Your Bluetooth unit talks to this and it controls this, and you go through the game. Pretty much, you hand every player the tablet, and they can pick what they want to do, because there's no controls on this one like the other one. There's also this weird skull system. You got like these little glyphs that lift up that mean things, and this would kind of be where those other icons would be on the old one. It lights up like red and black. It looks real cool when it lights up, and it makes lots of noises. And it has like sound effects, like narration, and it's really, really, super, advanced as compared to the original game. But I find it just to be a little more tedious, and because it's more advanced, it's more complicated. The older game was a lot more streamlined. But I'll show you the site real quick. If you go to Well of Souls, they have a Dark Towers page, and they basically go through everything that I was talking about, and they explain everything, and they've got pictures and yada yada yada. There's the little guys. Shows you you can barely see it with me sitting in front of it, but yeah, so you can go on here. Now this is one else important. So there's also a game around the same time called Dragon Master, which also had artwork by Bob Peppers, and that was more like a card game. It was like a strategic card game, but it had a lot of his art, and that was really cool. I had that as well. I didn't play it as much, but I did have that game. Just wanted to kind of point that out. What's Dragon Master? Let's try Dragon Master. Vertex? Oh. So they talk about Triumph, the original game there. Okay, I haven't read that, but it's probably worth reading. I thought this, when I looked this site up, I remember there's a Java game that was pretty close to the original game. You could play it like 1 to 4 players, and it was a Java-based game. It says it's available as an app game on iOS, or Dark Tower app for Android. So I haven't checked into that, but you probably can play it as an app, the original game, which is kind of cool. That'd be more like sitting on the couch with the tower in your lap. You could just play it by yourself. That's kind of neat. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out real quick. So let's go back to this one here. So I'm going to show you. This is my son. This is my dining room table. This is my apartment. If you ever want to know what my apartment looks like. But there's my son there, and this is, like I said, he's got the tablet there, so he's got the app on it. You know, the game's very similar. I mean, it's laid out pretty much the same. There's so there's the cover. Pretty cool looking cover. But here's the map. You know, that folds out. It's there, and you have. The cool thing is it does have the miniatures in it. As you can see, the miniatures on there somewhere. Where are they at? Oh, they're on there. Yeah, but you have like these different character classes you can play, and this is kind of like I'm using the Orphan Scion there because I took the picture. So he's playing the brutal warlord. He's all about the war, and then I was playing this card, and you can play this character, and so each character has separate powers and different abilities. So some of them do things differently than the other ones, which is kind of cool. There's more monsters in it. They have like a whole section of monsters, and then each different class of monsters, like there's like threat levels. So like when you're like start the game at, you're like threat level 1, and as it increases in the game, the threat levels change and get higher, and then you go to another set of monster cards, and they get increasingly more powerful. And you also level up your characters. As opposed to, like in the old game. So it's a lot more complicated, there's a lot more involved, a lot more stuff, components. My opinion on it, just shows you the content. The box, it's so complicated, they give you directions on how to put the box, how to store it in the back in the box. But here's the miniatures here, I'll pull one out to show you. And they coincide with the different characters. I think this is the Scion here. See if I can get that on camera. And then the other thing that's weird about the game is, so you have these skulls, little skulls, and they go every time. It's like after your turn, or however, you got to drop a skull in there. If you like lose a battle, you got to drop a skull in there. And every time you drop skulls in there, the skulls add up, and I think that's what increases the threat level. So if everybody starts losing, it's crazy. I mean, the game gets brutal on you quick. And then these glyphs will show glyphs that mean certain things. You have cards for, and if you get skulls on you, it'll kick them out in the bottom. It'll eject them, and you have to put them on like your different buildings. And if you have too many, I think if you have more than 3 skulls on a building, it gets destroyed. So you could lose like your sanctuary, you could lose the bazaar in your territory. So you'd have to go to another territory, and of course to use the other territory, you need special abilities to get to the other territory. So you kind of want to keep those away. And then you have different abilities, spells, and I think there's even cards, just like you have this. The healer would protect you from the plague. And this one, there's certain characters that can get rid of the skulls. So you can see the skulls on the board there, on those buildings. And then every one of the territories are numbered and marked. There's also these quests. There's a bunch of like side quests that you can do in the game, which obviously give you more levels and build up things, make you more powerful. And I believe like everybody has to solve all like I think they're called events or quests, I can't remember. But you have to solve so many of them before you can attack the tower. Just like in the old game, you would still attack the tower. I don't know if you had keys or what you needed exactly. It's been a while since I played this game. I think we played this, last time we played this game might have been when this picture was taken. That was last summer. Last fall. So it's been about a year since we've played this. There's the cover there. I just want to... Just a couple of pictures. There's a little close-up here. But you can't really see the lights as much. But it's cool. It adds cool soundtracks. I mean, it adds atmosphere to the game. It's pretty neat. But again, my opinion on the game is it better than the original? No. Is it just as good as the original? for the most part, yes. Is it, it's definitely more complicated. So if you're not a person who likes things to be more complicated, that can get on your nerves. That's me. So the game did kind of get on my nerves at first. We eventually, my son and I, and my son's pretty smart, a lot smarter than I am, and he ended up finally figuring out, all of the stuff, and we finally ended up playing the game to the end. I think we played through twice that night to make sure we were doing it right. And I think we both outcomes. I think we finally ended up. I think we won both outcomes because you have to remember you're cooperative. And we finally figured it out. Like I said, it's pretty complicated. To me, it was. And to most people, or most normal people, it's probably just walk in the park. But it's complicated to me. And I read through the rules a couple of times. And again, I'm not the best at reading rules. But yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, it was a great gift. I mean, I really appreciate having it. I cherish it. It's just a cool thing to have. I mean, just having this cool dark tower. It's almost like, you want to just leave it out as a decoration, like Grayskull. Put it up there with Grayskull, like a dark tower and Grayskull. But what was I going to say also about it? Again, I mean, it's expensive now, but I think when you could get, I think it was kickstarted for like $150 or $200 originally. I can't remember. I'm sure there's different tiers, like any Kickstarter, to get more things with it. But I saw it you can get it on Amazon right now. I think it's $300 on Amazon to buy new, so it's pretty pricey. But I mean, even Twilight Imperium, any big board game, modern board game, like especially Fantasy Flight stuff, that stuff is pricey. I'm gonna probably do a video on my opinions on the new Twilight Imperium, which I do have, and that's a game also that I found. It's a complicated game. I really enjoyed different versions of it. I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the most current version of it, but I'll probably do a video on that sometime. And I'll go back and I gotta remember how to play it. I'd like to play it again to see if I don't think we gave it a good shake. I think you need to play with the right kind of people, and I don't think we're playing it with the right kind of people to make it more fun and be more enjoyable. That's why I didn't get. I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm keeping it. I've had this is the third. I think it's the fourth edition, and this is the third one I've had. I started with second edition on Twilight Imperium. Well, what I'm saying is a big game like that is expensive. I mean, Settlers of Catan. I mean, if you buy like 3 or 4 of the expansion sets, you're spending like $200. That's another game that my son and I play. That's one we like, Settlers of Catan. But I find the board games just a little more fun than. That's the reason I got. This was a gift. But this is the reason I kind of got my son into the board games. Is I thought they were a little more fun and easier to kind of get into than playing the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. I've been meaning, I never have, that my game store where we're playing D&D, every Sunday they have open board games, and I should take this down there at some time and see if anybody wants to play it. And then I put an ad up to see if anybody wanted to play Twilight Imperium. Nobody got back to me on that, so I said I don't know if it's popular right now or what, but yeah, I mean, these are pretty fun. I haven't really been in the mood to play any of these board games in a while because, I don't know, there's a couple of issues going on. I'm getting to that age where I can't, you can see my chairs there. I don't have cushions on my chairs. They're not super uncomfortable, but I can't sit at a table for like 3 hours, 4 hours like I used to. My back just starts killing sitting in these chairs. My butt hurts. I'm just like, I mean, this chair I sit in to do my work all day, and it's padded, and it's a pretty nice gaming chair, but even this one just, kills my back eventually. Actually, it's a relatively brand new chair, and the back of it broke out of it, so it's not functioning exactly how it's supposed to, but it's not totally uncomfortable. But yeah, it's hard to sit at a dining room table unless you got really comfortable chairs. What I really wanted, I might have said this in the Dungeons and Dragons thing, was I always wanted to have the big what do you call it? A big round table, like almost like a poker table that's lower and I wanted like big cushiony kind of rolling chairs, almost chairs like this, but a little more cushiony, and everybody could sit around in these nice, comfortable chairs. Then I could sit there for a while, but just a hardwood chair, even with a pillow on it, it's just like, oh, I can't take it. I'm a good for about an hour, and then I'm like, I gotta get up. I can't sit here. That was one of the issues I was having playing D&D down in there. Is I guess I can't sit there for 4 hours in the chair. I get antsy, and I start hurting. So again, I haven't barely been in the mood, and I've been so busy with work, trying to get a bunch of commissions done and stuff, and get my comics and stuff done, that I haven't had a lot of time for this. So my son comes over, and he's always into something different, so, but so it's been hard to get a game going, having be able to sit and spend some time with it. Again, we haven't played this game since last fall, so it's not to say that I don't like the game. I'm just saying is we just haven't been in the mood to set it all up. And like, again, I mean, just my son and I guess as he gets older, it's more fun. But, you're sitting around playing with an 11-year-old, regardless of, how smart he is, it's kind of boring. Once he gets older, it's better. Some of his friends are, I don't know if they would be interested in playing it, but, if you got some other kids to play it, also I don't want to sit around the table with a bunch of, junior high kids playing it. I'd like to play with some other like-minded adults. And most of my gaming buddies that I gamed with for many, many years, they all live 100 miles south of here. So it's hard, and nobody ever wants to drive up here. I mean, it's 95 miles. It's not terrible, but people, gas is expensive, people are busy, they want their weekends to do their things with their families and stuff, and it's hard to really get people to come up here and visit me up in the Great White North. So, obviously in the summer it's a little easier, but I kind of isolated up here because my core friends are all south of here, and I don't really have a lot of friends up here, if any. I mean, I've got pretty much the only people I hang out with is my son, sometimes his friends, like again, I'm hanging out with a bunch of kids, his grandpa, which is my ex-father-in-law, we still get along really well, and he's a friend, and I'll hang out with him, and he takes us places and stuff, and we'll go, looking for records, and we go take him to his guitar lessons and stuff, so there's that, but I don't really have a lot of friends around here, and I've tried to make gaming friends. It's just so hard to make friends when you're older. You're in your middle-aged dude. Even trying to make friends with other middle-aged dudes, it's hard to do. It's weird. I mean, it seems like it's just as hard to find a male friend as it is to find a female companion, sometimes. Not sometimes, all the time, pretty much. Since everybody's busy, or some people, I don't know, personalities are different. Everybody seems to be weird nowadays. I mean, even people my age, everybody seems to be weird and, I don't know, I don't know what the word to describe it is. Everybody's just weird nowadays. It's hard to make friends. I've made some friends online. I've got clients that are, I consider friends, because we talk a lot. But obviously people live in different states, different countries, so it's hard to, it's not like you're going to spend a lot of time with them. But physical, time to spend together with each other, get you all in the same room or go out to eat or something. I do it maybe, if I'm lucky, 4 times a year. I might have friends come around, or family or whatever. So I don't really, pretty isolated up here in the middle of the state, where everybody's in the south part of the state. And again, I mean, I don't have a working vehicle, so I don't go down there unless somebody comes and gets us. I stay in my home. I stay in my city where I'm at, my home base, and I don't get around a lot of people's houses and stuff. That's the other thing makes that difficult. But I don't know. I won't keep boring you with the details of my life unless you're interested. If you want to know, I can tell you stuff. I also might do I got a tiny apartment, but I might do a little tour of my apartment. So when I talk about like things, you know what I'm talking about, like my living room. So you can probably get the There's my front door right there. You can see my little kitchenette's tiny. I don't know why, but I just noticed. Well, I didn't notice this now, but I noticed a while ago. It's like, wow, all the stuff's all. It's an older apartment, so it's not in the best of condition. It's not terrible. I mean, they fix things. These closet doors seem to come off their tracks all the time. This. I don't use a dishwasher much. I usually do all my stuff by hand. But there's my kitchen. There's my dining room table. I mean, it's literally, this is only like a 6, maybe a 5 by 8 or 5 by 6 area. And I've got a leaf for this table, but I couldn't fit the leaf in this dining area. And it seats 4. And of course, this person sitting here, your back's right up against the closet. So, it's not a very big apartment. My living room is, a few people can sit in the living room and watch stuff and talk. My living room's not very big. Actually, I don't have this anymore. I've gotten a new side table. But there's my front door. That's about all you can see in this picture. Like I said, I'll probably do when it's clean, after I do a nice cleaning and everything looks nice and straightened up, I'll do a tour of my apartment. Not that that's all that interesting, but like I said, if I talk about like books, and I'll show you like my bookcases and where I keep everything and all that stuff. Like I said, I'll wait till it's clean. Not that it's not dirty now, but I'm pretty organized. Everything's got its spot, it's got its place. I'm kind of OCD with my organization. But there's other stuff that, vacuuming the floor, keeping stuff dusted, yada yada yada. That's always a chore. If I had the money, I'd just hire a maid to come in and just do it all for me, but I don't have that kind of money. Yeah. So, alright, we almost got 50 minutes, so this will be a little bit shorter video. Of course, I got a few, what was I going to talk about at the end here? Snake Mountain should be here. Let's see, what's today? This video is gonna go out on Tuesday, but this is Saturday, just before that Tuesday. It's the 26th today. There is going to be. I'm gonna pull myself back up here. I've got. Like I said, I'll probably do a video tomorrow. I'll probably try to do videos many times as I can, just to build up a cache of videos. But I've got some albums I want to talk about. I don't think I have any albums on the way. I've got, I said we'll do the Snake Mountain thing. I'll probably do the Snake Mountain, it comes Tuesday, so on Tuesday's video when I record it, I'll probably do an unboxing. Like I said, I'll probably scooch the camera over here and I'll do an unboxing and pull it all out and kind of take inventory, all the pieces, and I might throw it together on the video. And that way you can see it built, and you see me building it. Then I gotta come up with a place to put. I may have a place to put it temporarily, but I might move some stuff around. So I gotta come up with a place for it, because pretty much my Masters of the Universe tower here is right next to my Dark Tower. There's no room to put another castle. I've got Grayskull on top. All the figures, vehicles, creatures, blah. It's all in this case. I might even end up right there for a while, right next to the camera, until I can figure out a place for it. I was trying to keep that section open, just as like a temporary place to, but we'll see on that. Put all this stuff back together in here pretty soon. I covered most of the stuff. Yeah, otherwise it's just components and all that stuff in there. But yeah, I really like having the sequel to the original Dark Tower, since the original Dark Tower is just so impossible to get. So it's a nice proxy to actually I put the tower away too, but it's a nice proxy for that game I used to have, from my childhood. Like I said, this is a big box too. I got a shelf out there where I put all my board games, but it's actually got a cool cover. I should set it up somewhere. Again, where am I going to put it? I don't know where I'm going to put the what's that cover? I don't even know where I want to put the what do you call it? Which I'm going to hold it here so I can do a maybe this will pop up as one of my screens. I don't know where to put my Snake Mountain, so who knows where this is going to go. Yeah, so if I make a suggestion, and you're interested, I would say, check out these games online. You can learn the history about the old game at that Well of Souls website, and then you can. I said supposedly there's app games. You can download app games of the original. There's if you really want to seek out an original copy, they're pricey. Good luck. Well, let's say it's good luck because the last one I saw on eBay was like $600 or $700. But seeing that people are spending like $650 on what do you call it? A Cat's Lair from the new Super 7 Thundercats. Apparently, people have money to spend like that. Again, you can get this new on Amazon. I think it's $299, $300. So this is pricey too, but it's definitely not as bad. And if you want to have the most, if you're one of those people who's like, well, I don't like the old one, I want the most current, most modern and advanced version. Well, I guess that's a no-brainer. You're just gonna have to get this. But like I said, I recommend it. If you love board games, if you love Dungeons and Dragons, you love fantasy, you grew up with the original Dark Tower, you name it. Find your reason. I highly suggest this game. If you lived in my area, I'd invite you over and sit at the table here and we'd play it. Yeah, like I said, I've got a few board games, and there were board games in the past. Just a real quick, I'll mention a couple of the games, original ones from like the 80s that I really liked. Dark Tower obviously was a big one. What was another game I really liked to play? Axis and Allies. Even the Samurai game was good. Let's see, Dungeon Quests. Oh yeah, so yeah, Games Workshop had a bunch of cool board games like Dungeon Quest, Talisman. I'm just trying to think of all the games that I had that I used to play that I really liked. I think you can get I don't know if you can get Dungeon Quest, but I know you can get Talisman now. Still through Games Workshop. It's kind of pricey, but you can get it. Hero Quest, which I think is a Milton Bradley game, but now you can get it. I think Hasbro makes it, and Hasbro's got expansions for it. That's a cool game. I was thinking about getting it. It's pricey, though, too. Hero Quest's a cool game. Yeah, so if you're into board games, I highly recommend it. So let me end this video, and like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I never know what I'm going to do until, like I said, I work up until a certain time, and then I switch gears to do a video, and I was just in the kitchen, getting stuff ready for dinner, and I passed the box, and I said, I'll do Dark Tower today for a video, so there you go. That's usually how the ideas come to me, unless I've, some like the Snake Mountain thing I've been waiting for, but a lot of times the fill-in-the-blank episodes here are stuff that just comes to me that afternoon, or I think about it while I'm working. Alright, so I will catch you, like I said, this is a Tuesday video. I'll catch you on Wednesday's video, and until then, have fun, take care of yourself, and subscribe. Help me build the numbers up. Alright, talk to you then. Bye-bye.